There are just 5 simple words that Deion Sanders needs to say in order to help himself out.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Boulder. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you for you guys for joining us over here at Locked On Buffs. I am Kevin Boulder, like I said. Coach Prime, there's 5 words that I think he needs to say that could easily fix or at least temporarily put a Band-Aid on the biggest problem that he is having right now, which is negative recruiting. So if you guys aren't familiar with negative recruiting, it is essentially when, for instance, let's say I'm the coach at USC or I'm the coach at Florida State. I'm Mike Norvell. And there's a recruit and he's considering Colorado and he's considering Florida State. And me being Mike Norvell in this scenario, I'm telling this recruit and his family, you don't want to go to Colorado. You know why? Deion Sanders, he's not going to be there next year. He's going to leave. He's going to leave. He's going to take a better job. He's going to take this Texas A&M job. You don't want to go there because then you'd have to transfer. Then it's like starting your recruiting process all over. And then who knows if you transfer, will people want you? Because honestly, not every time does a player transfer is he as highly sought after as he was as a recruit. And so that's his biggest issue. And there are 5 words that Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, must say. But first, let me tell you what he's said about this negative recruiting and why I think he's kind of just egging it on in a sense. He says, I don't talk about any other coaches or teams or staffs. I don't believe in that. I'm not going to put you down so I can stand up. I've never been that type of player or person in my life. Great stance. I totally feel like that's the perfect stance. And then he says, but all these other schools are telling these young men and their families, I am not going to be here. They think that we're going to be so successful that I'm going to leave. So they understand what we possess and the potential we possess, but that's not true. And he says it's not true. And the other day he made a statement saying, let me pull it up right here for you. And I think he's kind of saying the right things, but I also feel like it was these 5 words would just make life so much easier. And I'm going to read you the statement that he made, and then I will tell you the 5 words. I think you could guess if you haven't already kind of picked up on what I'm doing. He said, I'm here. I'm here. My mother is here. My sister is here. My dog is here. Always got to care about the dog, of course. My daughter is here. 3 of my sons are here, and my other daughter comes out for the home games. I get mail here, pay taxes here. I'm here. So he said in one place or in one interview, I'm here. And then the other one says that's not true in terms of leaving. So he's saying all these things except for I am staying at Colorado. There's your 5 words. If Coach Prime says those 5 words, that would instill confidence in recruits. That would instill confidence in parents and families. I talked about it yesterday with Brian Smith, our recruiting analyst over here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Free and available wherever you get your podcast, by the way. Make sure it checks out. It's like a worry that people are having. People are concerned that what his future plans are because he's not making a definitive statement. These statements are definitive-ish. Like it's like I'm here. But why not? I'm here for the future. I'm here in Boulder. I want to stay in Colorado. I am here. Like that he could just be saying I am in Colorado at this moment. Like and there's always a technicality is what it feels like. It feels like there's always like an exit plan. Not that he's going to leave because I've talked about this multiple times. Shedeur wouldn't be able to transfer. Well, Shedeur can transfer. He'd have to graduate to be eligible right away, or he'd have to get a waiver, which the waiver process is not a friendly process by any means. So I think there's kind of a self-inflicted problem here, and Coach Prime is just dragging this along. And so I don't think he's a candidate for the Texas A&M job. I feel like there's a lot of differences that the 2 parties would have. I think there's other coaches out there that they may be targeting. I think there's going to be the Texas A&M job, and Josh Pate said this. He said it's going to be like the USC job, where he thinks it's going to be, or he thinks it can be a big name. And so like Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma wasn't expected. And so he thinks the Texas A&M job could be something similar. So in my head, like I see why Deion Sanders is mentioned. I see why Coach Prime is someone who everyone's like, well, why not bring him in? He has ties to Texas. His recruiting savvy it can be really good. I think right now he's hurting himself with his inability to just say I'm staying at Colorado, and then obviously he's got a big month ahead of him. He's going to have to flip a ton of recruits to bolster this class, but he can recruit, and I think it'd be even easier to recruit at an SEC program in Texas. And also, he brings attention. Texas A&M would be the most popular program in the country. They've never, I think when Johnny Manziel was there, they were probably the most popular subject in the country, but even then they weren't the most popular team in the country, if that makes sense. It was more so Johnny. So when it's Coach Prime, obviously he's not playing, so his teams are the most popular. So his son, Travis Hunter, and all that. But I think it could be someone like Ryan Day. Like maybe if he loses to Michigan again and people are upset, maybe he's like, you know what? I don't need this. I'm going to go to Texas A&M. Or maybe it's like a Dabo Sweeney who's like, you know what? Clemson's not really working out for me right now. I'm gonna hit the road. Or maybe it's like who else? It's like a big name, but like kind of doesn't need Kalen DeBoer. He didn't have a definitive answer either. And so I think it's all part of, I think there's a couple reasons why. I think Coach Prime could be, and Kalen DeBoer and people that are doing this, they could be lobbying for bigger contracts, more money. They could be thinking that they're saying the right thing and they're not. And I think that's probably not a case at all because all these guys are PR trained, especially Coach Prime. He has his own PR company or his own PR people, excuse me. So I think there's just a notion of like, I shouldn't have to explain myself, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to explain yourself. Otherwise, recruits are going to be like, what's going on? Like, I don't know what to believe, what to trust. And so there's just a whole lot of trust issues that I could see kind of hurting Colorado at this moment. But yeah, they have about a month. Early signing day is coming up, and they have about a month or so, not really a month, a couple weeks now to figure out what they're going to do, and it's going to be interesting. I'll keep you covered every step of the way over here at Locked On Bus. This episode of Locked On Bus is brought to you by our sponsors over at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job on LinkedIn to find the perfect candidate like I was at one point. Coming out of school, I'm green. I'm looking for the perfect job. And I go on LinkedIn. I connect with the Pac-12 networks, hiring manager. We talk. We do this. We do that. I discuss what I'm good at. He discusses what they need. Bada bing, bada boom. I'm hired. And they found a perfect candidate. So if you want to find the perfect candidate like I was once myself, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Athletic Brewing. Let me tell you about Athletic Brewing. It's time for my Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company, much like Travis Hunter is, because he's always making the big plays. He's always making the big plays on offense and defense, and I think he's always showing what it means to be a Colorado Buffalo in the perfect way. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. They have completely changed the game in the sense that they have full flavor and well-crafted. Their beers are full flavor and well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer, but they're non-alcoholic. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beers, including IPAs, golden sours, and more. And the best part, they're fit for all times. So you could drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity even more enjoyable, like watching a big game, your kid's game, tackling work, or a workout. The best part also, there's no hangovers ever. So you can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Welcome back. We are talking about Richard Sherman again. I really like what Richard Sherman has to say most of the time. I think he's a really insightful analyst. And I think he always is pretty spot on with what he has to say about Coach Prime and all that. So he was talking about the Texas A&M job, and this was a couple days ago now, but I wanted to talk about it on the show because I think he has the right idea. And I think a lot of people aren't thinking straight on Coach Prime at Texas A&M. So in a sense, he said there isn't enough money on this earth for Prime to leave his sons at Colorado for Texas A&M. And I think that's a fantastic point. And I think that's a point that Coach Prime should use to his advantage. I think there's a lot of people that want to use the nepotism thing against Coach Prime, but he should use that, not nepotism, but the fact that he's coaching his sons at Colorado to his advantage. I think this is another way to combat negative recruiting. His daughter's there. His 3 sons are there. His mom's there. His sister's there. He's got a dog out there. Like, his whole family's there. And obviously Shedeur and Shiloh are going to leave next year for the NFL, but his daughter's going to be there. Deion Jr. is going to be there, probably filming still. And he could just say easily, they could offer me all the money in the world, but they can't offer me the experience that I have coaching my kids or being at the same place my kids are. And even when his kids leave, even when Shiloh and Shedeur leave, he's still going to have the daughter and Deion Jr. On campus, the son and the daughter. So that's still two children there. That's two children to be with and hang out with all the time. And I think that's a major point to make. And I wanted to kind of show you guys what Richard Sherman was saying, because honestly, I think it's like a added in explanation for Coach Prime that he's not taking advantage of, and I think he should. And I know obviously he doesn't really need my PR training for him, because he's probably the most PR trained person in the game. But I'm just telling you, Coach Prime, you talk about the experiences of being with your kids and stuff, and nobody's gonna want to doubt you or anything else. So let's take a look at what Richard Sherman had to say, because I think it was pretty spot on. Okay, here we go.
Colorado and abandon them and go coach in a school in Texas because they can't leave. And there's not enough money on this earth for Prime to do that. So this conversation isn't as relevant as we're making it out to be. He is a great father, and he has coached his kids at every level that they played, from Pop Warner to now college football. So I don't think at this point in time he's going to go chase the money and abandon his sons that he literally just said are coming back for another year. Now, if both his sons declared for the draft and they went into the draft and got drafted, then maybe there'd be a chance. There'd definitely be a conversation. And
yeah, so I think that is exactly spot on right there, that what Richard was saying. If this job came up next year, I could see it being more of a factor. But right now, aligning with Coach Prime's life and me being his from afar life coach, just kidding, not really. Just putting 2 and 2 together. Would he want to leave his sons when he has a chance to coach them one final time? We've talked about it many times. He's only going to have this opportunity to have all of his kids, minus the one daughter that obviously flies in for home games, all of his kids to be in one place at one time. Even on holidays, it's going to be difficult. We all grow up, we all adult, we all do this thing where we grow apart and do our own thing. And I think as close as a family they are, as close as any family in the world, we all just start doing our own things. And so the 2 sons are going to go, they're going to go to the NFL. Maybe they settle down, have a family. They're not going to have a lot of time to make it out to Boulder all the time. They're going to be focused on their jobs with the NFL, focusing on their family. And so why would he give that up, especially at a Power 5 program, a program as big as Colorado is, and as he's making it? And he has free reign at Colorado. And I think a lot of people are overlooking that. I think at Texas A&M, the boosters heavily involved. There's a very, I don't know how to explain it, but Texas A&M has a very unique vibe and aura to it. And I don't think it's for everyone. I'll just put it that way. So Coach Prime, I don't see him leaving Colorado this year, and I don't think Texas A&M would be the job for him. Maybe if like a Miami or a Florida opens up next year after his sons leave, and maybe that's a different case. But we'll get there when we get there. I think he's staying in Boulder for now, especially. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now I can play during basketball season too. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. And to make matters better, they have quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. It is daily fantasy sports made easy. To conclude the show, we are talking about Washington State. Is it a must win, or is it a is any game a must win for Colorado? I don't know. Actually, I do. And I think this is a must win. There's two reasons. One, I think a fifth win, not that it matters because they're still projected to finish below 500 with the Utah game right after. I think a fifth win would move mountains for Colorado. Something about them not winning a game since October 7th is not going to sit well with, I think, fans. I think it kind of recruits I think there's excitement from recruits, but I also think they're like, oh, they haven't won in over a month. So what's going on there? But I think there's just there's that factor. And then you get to 5 wins. You have almost doubled your projected win total. And it's just, you're right there. It's like, oh, we were 1 game away from making a bowl game. And then obviously it's must win for the bowl game factor. Colorado has a chance to make a bowl game. They do. It's literally, they win 2, they're in. They lose 1, they're out. The Washington State is a beatable team. This is the other reason it's a must-win game. Washington State, while they were once a really good team this year, they have fallen off dramatically. Like, think of like Pimp My Ride falling off. Think of like, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of like a musical artist. I don't want to shade anybody, but like that one song where it's like somebody I used to know, or like, I don't know, someone else like that, or think of a one-hit wonder and just think of the fall off they've had, because that is Washington State. They were 4-0, ranked 13th in the country, and they have lost 6 straight, and not all their games have been close. They lost 44-6 to Arizona, 38-24, 38-27 to Arizona State. They lost 10-7 to Stanford, and 42-39. So 1, 2, 3 of their games were double-digit losses. The other, Stanford, was in the pouring rain. Washington State was not able to do anything. And then Cal simply, it was a shootout, and Cal won. Cal was the last man shooting, if you will. And I think this Colorado team can easily beat this Washington State team. I think they have the offense to do it, and I think Washington State's going to get theirs on offense. But it's their defense that worries me, and I think Colorado could outscore them. And so this is a struggling team, struggling as much as any. And if they don't win here, it's kind of like that was a defeating way to go out, because if you look at Colorado, they've lost, like I said, they lost 4 out of their last 5. This would make it 5 out of the last 6. And then they have Utah next week, which is most people are probably going to project as a loss. So that's tough. That's a tough way to go out. I won't lie to you. And I think they need this win just to kind of boost morale again. I think there's a lot of, I guess, chatter about what's going on with Colorado. I think the Sean Lewis thing was a debacle. I think the decommitments from Winston Watkins, while he's a 2025 commit, I think the thought process of Coach Prime not being there, debacle. I think Jordan Seaton coming to Colorado the week of Sean Lewis's demotion and him saying coaches don't know what's going to happen at Colorado. And so I'm kind of staying away from asking those questions. Not great. Debacle. They need a win here to kind of get them back on track. A win here kind of silences all the outside noise for at least a day or so. A loss to Washington State, who's lost 6 straight, that's going to hurt. That's going to take whatever wind is left in those sails. It's going to take it right out of it, because Washington State, is struggling. They have no business beating Colorado. They really don't. They've just fallen off. Their team is not as good as they once were. Maybe it was just matchups. Maybe they lost confidence. Maybe it's injuries. Not sure. They're just not the same team. And Colorado has been close at times over the last couple of weeks, and I think that they can. Arizona, they were winning that game pretty much the whole time, and then they end up losing, missed kick. It's tough. You don't want to blame the kicker. Obviously, there was more moments where they could have taken advantage, but they didn't. They didn't score a single point in the fourth quarter. Can't get outscored in the fourth quarter and expect to win, especially when the other team scores 10 points and then you get outscored in the second half 17-7. You can't get outscored 17-7 in the second half. You just can't. And so they could have won that game. They could have won the Stanford game. The Oregon State game, they had moments, time management issues kind of got the best of them. So they've been close. It's just a matter of putting it together. And I think this is a perfect opponent to put it together upon. It's just a matter of, will they do it? Can they do it? We'll find out. But either way, this has been another great episode of Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. It's your team every day right here. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We are nearing 4,000 subscribers. We'll love to get there by season's end, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow.